Hello and good morning, good people. Merry Christmas to everybody. Today, we're gonna be doing a new video. We're gonna be doing brakes. That's right, we're gonna be doing rotors today. Kind of overdue for it. Kind of noticed a little bit of warping in the rotors a few months ago. I just haven't had time to get them changed. I actually tried to arrange getting them done with a friend of mine who's a mechanic, but had some complications there. I said, you know what, let me just attempt to do it myself. I've done rotors before with a friend of mine on the GLI. It took us 9 hours to do all four, but we did some other work besides just rotors and pads. We were painting the calipers as well, and we just had some issues compressing the caliper pistons. It was just a lot of work on Volkswagens. Whereas this one appears to be a little bit easier, a little less time consuming. So I'm gonna go ahead and get it done myself. Should be pretty straightforward. I know when I bought the car a year ago, and I haven't put that many miles on it. When I bought the car, I had like 40,000 miles on it. And right when I bought the car, they had actually did the pads, the front pads, like a month prior to it. So the pads were basically new. In fact, it's probably about 75–80% pad life left on them right now. So I won't be changing the pads. I know sometimes in most circumstances when you're doing brakes, you kind of do both at the same time. Even though traditionally they both wear out independently, as they are independent components, they do work together to stop the car. But it just so happens that before I bought the vehicle, someone had already changed the pads, but the rotors were like 5–6 years old. So I'm noticing warping under heavy braking, so it's basically time to just replace the rotors. So that's what we're gonna do. So without further ado, let's jump to it. I'm gonna jack up the car and then we'll get started. Box of rotors. Go ahead and cut this thing open a little bit. Oh, look at that, that was nice of them. So these rotors I got from a company, online company called Brakenetic. Great OEM replacement type rotors or type equipment to purchase. Relatively affordable. Even, look at that, they even put the placement. I love that. Right side, left side is underneath. Brakenetic seemed like a pretty good company. I've done cross-drilled, slotted and end drilled before. I'm not really looking for like a major performance upgrade or anything like that. I mean, I'm not transitioning to an F80 brake kit off the M3. I mean, this is kind of my daily driver-ish, even though I do have a work car, a company car that I drive when I am traveling, and I travel quite a bit, about 70% of the year. This is kind of my daily driver when I'm home, and also my weekend warrior. So I'm not taking it to the track or anything like that, but I also want to increase a little bit of performance, but do preventative maintenance overall. So why not just kind of do like this OEM plus kind of thing? And so I've done this style rotor before on the GLI, and I loved it. It worked great. So obviously, you know, helping with dissipate heat and some of those gases that build up in the rotors, you know, kind of helping a little bit with the just overall brake performance, stopping performance, if you will help without, you know, trying to jump into, you know, BMW M territory. So, all right, so for first things first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the brake master cylinder cap where the fluid is. And I'm not going to remove it. I'm just going to kind of crack it open just a little bit, just like that. And I'm going to take some towels and kind of just wrap around it. And the reason I'm doing this is in case I have to compress the caliper piston, since I'm not replacing the pads, make sure I put these cloths here, because when I back up the piston, some of the brake fluid is going to make its way back up through the cylinder, and I want to relieve that pressure. So I'm going to have that there in case any fluid comes out. Maybe not a whole lot, because there's still a little bit of room in the reservoir, but it's not completely maxed out. Even though it says it is, there's still room at the top of the actual reservoir in case some does come up. One of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the guide pins that are right here. This is what holds the pad clip right here. There's two guide pins. I'm just going to back them all the way out, and that'll give access to removing the actual pads, and then I'll be able to remove the two caliper bolts that are holding the actual caliper bracket on as well. But first things first, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove these pins. I don't really have a tool to remove these, so I kind of just have this small flathead screwdriver tip. It's small enough to get in there and remove the lining pins. And once you get them kind of loose enough, you kind of just push them through just like that. I'm not sure if these are different lengths or measurements of any sort, but just like that. So remember those right there. And there's our clip. That actually came out pretty easy, so we can actually reuse that. So there you go. It's pretty much exposed. And like I said, I still have a good like 75-80% of my pads left, so I can still reuse them. So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and remove the 2 bolts at the back, 2 caliper bolts. So on the back, you will see here, this caliper bolt here is 1 and 2 at the bottom. It's an 18mm, and so I'm gonna go ahead and pop those off. I forgot. So when I take the caliper off, I don't want the brake line or the sensors to be the only thing holding up the caliper as I'm doing this brake job. So again, I'm gonna be using my good old-fashioned shoelace to kind of hang it from the strut so it doesn't cause any pressure to the brake line. Some people use bungee cord, like bungee hook cord type of thing. I don't have that, but this will do just fine. I'm just gonna tie it down really good, make sure it's dangling with pressure on this and not on the actual brake line. So just remember. Next bit is going to be using this Torx bit 6, size 6, to take off the rotor nut right here. So I'm gonna take that off. So I've got the nut out, but I'm noticing the rotor is not coming off. So I'm gonna take my hammer and kind of see if I can knock it loose. Saw online someone did this and checked with the forums, and this kind of helps get it off. So let's see what happens. All right, so I got off the rotor. One of the things I'm gonna do as well right now is I'm gonna go ahead and try to clean up the hub here. I'm going to be using this P80 Sand Paper. Very light, but it's good for rust and corrosion. I'm not going to try to paint it or anything, but it's just enough to kind of just clean it real quick. So give it a good clean. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you know, it'll get off any excess rust. Kind of help minimize squeaking since we're putting on new rotors. You know, it is metal to metal contact, so this will help really well with cleaning. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to spray the calipers, kind of clean them up kind of good. Kind of clean them off, you know, make them kind of nice and shiny, if you will. Again, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. This is just to, you know, maintenance kind of thing. Clean them off just like that. Make sure you use your torque wrench and torque down the rotor nut to 12 foot-pounds. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the caliper back on. So I'm going to be using the original pads. Like I said, the pads still have quite a bit of meat left. Like I said, about maybe 70% left, which this will probably take me another couple years. I know it probably looks less, but there's actually quite a bit of pad left. I'm not going to change them out yet. It's going to be a while. But like I said, there is already a lubricant type material to kind of prevent squeaking. so I'm gonna continue to use these as well. So I'm just gonna slide this back in, and then we'll be on our way to the right side. All right, so I have the 2 caliper bolts back in. I'm gonna go ahead and torque the bolts down to about 81 foot-pounds of torque. Make sure they're on nice and snug. Then I'll go ahead and get the caliper clip back in, and the 2 guide nuts or guide bolts, and then we're good to go. So there we go, I've got it in. I've got the 2 caliper pins in. I've got the clip or bracket in as well. I had to finagle it a little bit. It is a kind of an awkward fit because the clip doesn't like fall into place. You kind of have to align it with the pins. Also, I had to undo the 18mm bolts behind the caliper bracket in order to wiggle the caliper into place so all of this would fit. But it worked good. So there we go, all set. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten everything up, get everything retorqued, get the wheel back on, and do the other side, and that's pretty much the brake. All right, so I've got the wheels back on. They look really good. Got the calipers cleaned up. I didn't really have to do much to the calipers, so I've got everything tightened up already. All right, good people, all done. Almost forgot to do a send-off before I drove away, but that's it. Pretty straightforward. Wasn't as difficult as I thought it was gonna be. Actually, I didn't think it was gonna be that difficult, but you know, it's been a while since I've done brakes. But yeah, pretty much all done. I've driven the car around the neighborhood a little bit, kind of tested the brakes. Everything seems to feel fine. No squeaks, no squabbles, no more shaking. The car just feels good. As always, thank you guys very much for checking the video out. Again, this is just a video memoir, if you will, of the things that I enjoy doing with my car. So if it's a DIY, cool. Hopefully I can provide you with some tips, but I am not a certified mechanic. I'm just a guy that enjoys working on his car, and hopefully my personality is something that you can connect with. But as always, please subscribe, hit the notification icon. Please comment, let me know what you think. I'm always up for criticism, critique, always ways to be better, so let me know. But as always, thank y'all for checking it out, and see you until next time. Hey!